Hey guys, in today's video you will meet Grace Holloway, a black woman who died for 4 minutes after an accident and came back with a shocking revelation given by Jesus. What she saw about white people, technology, and the future of humanity will leave you speechless. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss anything. And comment below which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this message will reach. My name is Grace Holloway. I'm 46 years old and live in a quiet village called Linton, on the outskirts of Cambridge, England. I work as a caregiver for the elderly. Nothing glamorous, but I have always felt that caring for the forgotten is, in some way, touching the heart of God. My life has always been simple. Crowded buses, calloused hands, silent prayers at the end of the day. I didn't expect miracles, but that morning, everything changed. It was an ordinary Tuesday. Rainy, like so many around here. I was driving home after a 12-hour shift with Mrs. Beatrice, an elderly woman with advanced dementia. My body hurt, but my heart was at peace. Until, on a wet curve on the B1049 road, a speeding car crossed the road. I only saw the headlights, a flash, the sound of metal twisting like paper, then silence. When I opened my eyes, I realized I was outside my body. I saw myself there, inside the crushed car, my head slumped over the steering wheel. Blood ran down my forehead. But I was standing outside. No pain, no fear. Just a strange feeling of lightness and a presence. It was then that the atmosphere changed. The sky turned white. Not white like a cloud, but like a living light that passed through me. And then he appeared. No tunic, no religious appearance. It was Jesus. I recognized him not by his eyes, but by his spirit. It was love. It was true. And he looked at me with an intensity that tore me apart inside. "Are you ready to see?" he said, without moving his lips. Before I could respond, everything around me dissolved. The car, the road, the rain disappeared. We were lifted to a place that seemed beyond time, and there the revelation began. I thought death would be an end, perhaps a quiet peace. But what I experienced was an urgent call, a truth so great, so brutal, that it still makes me shudder when I remember it. It wasn't about me. It was about all of us, about what we are accepting without realizing it, about what is being built around us while we are distracted by battles that are not ours. At that moment, little did I know that I would see entire cities in silence, children with blank eyes, and an invisible war that is already being won, not with weapons but with lies. I thought he would show me heaven, angels, harps, maybe my deceased relatives. But what Jesus showed me was the earth, our world. But seen from the outside, as if I were at an impossible altitude. I saw entire continents, cities pulsating like living organisms. But soon that vision approached, and then I understood. That was not a blessing. It was a warning. We went down, and little by little the cities became closer, clearer. But there was no joy in them. There was no laughter. People walked the streets with empty eyes in absolute silence. A silence that hurt your bones. There was order, yes, but a cold, controlled order. And they all had something implanted under their skin, just below their hand or forehead. Like an invisible seal that only I seemed to be able to see. "That's the future if they win," said Jesus, in the saddest voice I've ever heard. But he's already started now. He showed me families divided by ideologies, friends who became enemies because of skin color, parties, words. I saw children taught to distrust their own parents. I saw churches exchanging truth for convenience, and I realized that everything had a pattern: division, separation, isolation. Then Jesus touched my shoulder and took me deeper. I saw some kind of dark, huge room like a control center, but it wasn't about technology. It was spiritual. There, forces that I could not understand manipulated lines of energy that connected people, races, tribes, systems. Each line was fueled by human emotions, guilt, hate, pride, fear. And these lines intersected in a network, a web of invisible slavery. None of them are free, he said, looking sadly. They think they choose, but they are being guided by old wounds. It was then that he showed me something that cut me to the core, a line that connected a young black woman full of pain, anger, and struggle to a white man consumed by guilt, silence, and fear of making mistakes. Both wounded, both right in their own eyes, and both blind. They were being used as opposing pieces, feeding the same system. They are being deceived, Jesus whispered. It's not about race, it's about control. They are using pain to divide my children. At that moment, I felt a holy indignation invade me. Everything we thought of as a social, political, even cultural debate and was deeper. It was spiritual. And behind that, there was something, or someone, engineering a prison so subtle that many call progress. But why show it to me? I asked, my voice shaking. He just replied, because you have something they lost, eyes that still cry. Jesus reached out his hand, and when I touched it, we were transported again. This time, to a dark place, but not like the previous control room. It was something more personal, heavier. It was a room of pain. The walls seemed to be made from living memory. I could hear muffled screams, swallowed laments, words never spoken echoing everywhere. It was as if I were inside the heart of humanity, where wounds don't heal. They just change names. We walked through corridors full of mirrors, but instead of my reflection, I saw stories. Real stories. A black boy being humiliated by police officers on a narrow London street. The feeling of helplessness, of boiling anger. He didn't know it, but from then on he would carry a pain that would shape all his decisions. Further along, I saw an elderly white woman sitting alone in front of the TV being accused, indirectly, of crimes she never committed, for a heritage she herself barely understood. She felt guilt, shame, and at the same time afraid to speak, and that silence turned into resentment. They think they are on opposite sides, said Jesus, but they are locked in the same room, only in different cells. I started to cry. I had never seen it like that. I always thought that conflicts were issues of justice, reparation, identity. But now, I saw that they were keys being used against us. Each trauma was a cell, every resentment, a lock. And the cruelest thing, many were proud of the chains that bound them, thinking they were fighting for freedom. Jesus looked deep into my eyes and said, I did not come to deny their pain. I know it, I carry it, but the truth that liberates is being suffocated by narratives that divide. Then something unbelievable happened. An intense light filled the room, and for a moment, all those people, the boy, the lady, so many others, turned and looked at me, not with hate but with hope, as if they were waiting for me to say something. You will tell, Jesus said. It's going to be difficult. They'll call you a traitor, an alien, crazy. But tell the truth, some will listen, others won't, but time is running out. I wanted to say I wasn't strong enough, that no one would listen to me. But he showed me something inside me, a small but living flame, the same flame that made me hold an elderly man's hand in silence, the same flame that made me pray without knowing for whom. There, in that room of pain, I understood that my mission was not to heal the world. It was shining a light where the darkness felt too comfortable. After the pain room, we were taken to another place. This time it wasn't a symbolic site. It was a real city, or almost real. Jesus told me it was a city of the future, not as an immutable prophecy, but as a warning of the path we are on if we don't wake up. The city was beautiful. At first glance, clean, organized, mirrored glass facades, silent drones flying over the gray sky. Everything seemed efficient, safe, and completely dead. There were no smiles. People walked in a line, heads down, with a robotic rhythm. each with a small shiny implant under the skin on the back of their right hand. I approached a woman who was holding a child by the hand, or rather by the arm. There was no affection in the gesture. It was as if her mother had forgotten what love meant. "Why are they like that?" I asked. Jesus replied, "Because silence became obedience. And obedience became prison." I saw screens everywhere with standardized messages. Security is freedom. Pain is disorder. Trust is moving forward. The words seemed soft, even noble. But something about them made me feel sick. It was as if they hid something terrible behind their softness. We were taken to a central square where I saw a line of people waiting, smiling to receive something. I saw that some left with a more dull look than when they entered. As I got closer, I realized they were receiving updates on their implants, updates that removed doubts, emotions, painful memories, all in the name of peace. But why do they accept this? I asked, desperate. Because they prefer anesthesia to the truth, Jesus replied. They were conditioned little by little. First, it was by convenience, then by security, then by social exclusion, and then by the law. At the corner of a street, I saw a man being dragged by 2 drones. He cried and repeated, "I just asked why." Nobody looked, nobody reacted. The fear was absolute. But the most painful thing was when I saw children in schools learning not to think, not to question. I saw books being replaced by programs, feelings exchanged for digital rewards, an entire generation being shaped to obey without understanding. "This is not a fiction," Jesus said. "It's construction. It's already started." It was at that moment that I understood what he meant when he said, "They are using pain to divide my children, because while we fight with each other, they build this, that brilliant prison, this clean modern dystopia where no one needs a soul anymore, just function. You can still talk," he told me, "and as long as there is someone who listens, there is hope." The city disappeared before me like smoke, but her taste remained, a bitter warning taste, and the certainty that I could no longer remain silent. After the sight of the city of silence, my soul trembled. I wanted to retreat, back to my quiet little life, to caring for the elderly, to the sound of horns and the kettle whistling on the stove. But there was no return. What I had seen was inside me now, and Jesus was still there, steady, with his eyes fixed on mine. "You haven't seen the worst yet," he said, "but you will also see the medicine." We were then taken to some kind of court, a place that was not physical but vibrated like a structure of spiritual judgment. There were beings there. Some looked human, others didn't. They were entities covered in cloaks, watching screens that showed the earth in real time. Each screen showed a narrative, a racial discussion, a political crisis, a debate about rights, technology, freedom. "The whole world is being distracted," Jesus said, "and they control the script." I saw with my own eyes how the headlines were decided, how tragedies were amplified or silenced, not out of compassion but out of strategy. It was a war of emotions, not bombs. And then, something made me shudder. I saw the symbol of a technology company I knew well, one of those we use every day. They were talking about a new chip, a wonderful advance, one that would allow instant payments, vaccine registration, digital identification, and even mood control. People applauded, fake smiles everywhere. First, it will be optional. Then, it will be necessary. Then, mandatory, said Jesus with pain in his voice. I felt suffocated. But why don't we see that? He looked at me tenderly. Because you don't want to believe that evil can be elegant. Those words tore me apart. I always thought that evil came ugly, with teeth and screams. But in that place I understood. Perfect deception is not scary. He seduces. He calms down. It disguises itself as empathy, inclusion, efficiency. I saw how the system feeds on our wounds. Racism, pride, inequality, the history of pain. None of this is denied, and on the contrary, it is amplified, manipulated, and converted into a tool of control. And then, like a sharp blade, Jesus said, "True bondage is that which makes you think you are fighting, when in fact you are obeying." That Ahmadi took my breath away. It was as if the spiritual ground had disappeared beneath my feet. I saw sincere activists being used as puppets. I saw religious leaders bending over backwards in the name of relevance. I saw parents handing their children over to the system for fear of being excluded, and everyone thought they were on the right side. I wanted to scream, to warn, but all I could do was fall to my knees. Jesus then knelt with me, and he said with eyes full of light, "All is not lost. There are still those who hear me." The previous vision had left me shaken, but Jesus did not let me fall into despair. He held me, lifted me gently, and said, "Now, I want to show you those who resist." In the blink of an eye, we were taken to places that seemed disconnected from each other. A cabin hidden in the mountains of Scotland, a small room in Ghana, an underground church in the Middle East, a dark room in Birmingham where a girl prayed silently. None of them were famous. None were strong in the eyes of the world, but everyone was awake. I felt something different about these people. There was pain, yes. Many had been rejected, persecuted, silenced, but there was also a light in them that nothing could extinguish. A steady flame. It wasn't religion, it was true, raw faith without an audience, an inexplicable trust in God, even in the midst of chaos. They did not surrender, Jesus said. They are forgotten by men, but they are known in heaven. I saw a black woman with bare feet and a torn Bible in her hands praying for her enemies. I saw a white man, a former executive, washing the feet of addicts on a cold street. I saw a young Asian woman preaching hidden at traffic lights, using code words. I saw an indigenous boy fasting, without even knowing what doctrine was, just hungry for God. They were not linked by the internet nor by politics, but by the same spirit. "This is my true body," Jesus whispered, scattered, hidden, but indestructible. I felt something invade my chest, a mix of shame and hope, because I realized that in the midst of all this madness, God still had his own, an invisible remnant that did not bend to fear, nor to the system, nor to the wounds. They were attacked from all sides, labeled radicals, backwards, fanatics. But I could see they were the ones holding the world in prayer. It was as if her tears had weight in the sky. Jesus showed me an invisible map with points of light. Each point was one of these people, and despite being physically distant, they were connected by golden threads that went from each person's heart straight to the throne of God. Nobody sees them, but they touch me. I cried like a child, because there I understood that the answer to the chaos was not to scream louder, but to listen deeper, return to the secret place, to the root, to repentance, to obedience without an audience. Jesus looked at me and said something that I carry to this day. "Tell them that they are not alone, that I see them, that there is still time. But also tell them, time is not infinite." There, in the midst of the invisible remnant, I realized that the diabolical plan was not invincible, but resistance would have to begin in silence, inside each one. After seeing the invisible remnant, I felt hope reborn within me. But Jesus looked at me seriously and said, "Now I need to show you what happens when the truth is kept quiet. We have been led into a kind of spiritual desert, but it wasn't made of sand. It was made of voices that had been silenced, swallowed words, muffled screams. There were those who knew the truth, but chose silence for fear of rejection, loss, pain. I saw leaders who once preached with courage, now ashamed that they had sold out to applause. I saw parents who knew something was wrong but gave in out of convenience. I saw young people who saw through the lies but chose the comfort of approval at the cost of integrity. Each of them had a flame inside their chest, but that flame was extinguished, and the worst part, they knew it. They heard the call, Jesus said, but they thought they still had time. His words cut me like a knife, and that's when I realized the problem was never that the world was dark. It was always the light that was hidden. Jesus showed me a crowd walking towards an abyss. It wasn't a flaming hell. It was a place of absence. Absence of meaning. Lack of identity. Of connection. From God. And these people walked with cell phones in their hands, headphones in their ears, eyes fixed on digital promises. They thought they were advancing, but they were disappearing. Their minds were occupied. Their hearts were asleep. Their spirits were anesthetized. I saw signs along the way with phrases like, "Your freedom is in your palm," "Accept the chip, simplify your life," "Control is security." And I saw how each person who accepted the spiritual seal, that chip, began to lose traces of humanity. It was subtle. First the critical sense, then the discomfort, finally the pain. When there is no pain, there is no more soul, just obedience. I fell to my knees again. How can I do anything in the face of all this? I'm just a caregiver, Lord. Jesus then bent down before me, held my face with both hands and said with a voice full of fire, "You have what they lost. Conscience. You saw it. And now you have to speak. Because there are others like you. And when one speaks, another wakes up. And when two rise, three are free. Hell fears those who awaken." At that moment, everything about me changed. It was no longer about courage. It was about mission, about responsibility, about love for those who are still silent. Not because they chose to, but because they never heard any truth other than lies. "This is the last calling," he said. "The window is closing." After the call, I realized that everything, all the visions, the words, the pain, and the promises, were leading me to a single point: choice. Not just mine, but that of all humanity. A moment that approached, like thunder on the horizon. Jesus took me to a valley. It was dark, but not gloomy. The air there was charged. I felt like I was facing something definitive. In the center of the valley, there were two trails, one wide, lit by colorful signs full of voices, promises, and technology. The other was narrow, made of dirt, almost hidden by bushes and silence. "This is the time of separation," Jesus said. "Not between peoples, but between those who see and those who prefer to close their eyes." I looked at the wide trail and saw millions walking along it. Their clothes were modern, their faces beautiful, their bodies perfect. But his eyes were dim, and the further they advanced, the more their features faded. It was as if they lost face, the identity. Some even thought they were following God, but when I looked deeper, I saw that the God they followed was someone else, a reflection of themselves, shaped by algorithms and promises of prosperity. They follow a Christ created by the system, a Christ that does not confront, does not transform, does not save. It only confirms what they want to hear. The narrow trail, on the other hand, was deserted, but there were deep footprints in the clay. Someone had already passed by there. And then I understood. It was his way. The real one. Whoever walks this path will bleed. They will be rejected. They will call them crazy, extremist, unnecessary. But this is the path that leads to life. I was shaking inside. The decision wasn't just spiritual. It was practical. Jesus showed me how this choice would materialize. To accept or not to accept the chip. To give in or not to give in to the system. Speak or be silent. Really love or hide behind ready-made speeches. It was all much more concrete than I imagined. Saw people in queues in front of a terminal that implanted the chips. Those who accepted could work, buy, and have access to services. Anyone who didn't accept was disconnected from the system, invisible, expelled. "Do you think it will be easy to choose?" Jesus asked. "No," I replied with tears falling. "But it is necessary." He then said something that resonates with me every day. "Freedom has always been expensive, but it's worth more than anything." I saw in that valley the future being drawn, and it wasn't just about what the world was going to do. It was about what each person would do, and even more so, about what I would do with everything I had seen. "You have been chosen to see," Jesus said. "Now choose to live by what you saw." I felt it when everything started to drift away. The visions, the voices, the places. It was as if the sky was pulling back the curtain, as if the time for revelation was running out. But before leaving, Jesus took me to one last place. It was a field, full of broken mirrors. Each mirror reflected a different piece of humanity. I saw there the black woman who once carried so much pain, now praying for reconciliation. I saw the white man once consumed by guilt, now asking for forgiveness humbly without fear. I saw peoples, nations, hands touching through the shards. I saw eyes opening. But everything was fragile. All it took was one blow from the system, and the pieces could separate again. "The truth can heal," Jesus said, "but only if it is said with courage, with love, with tears." He touched my chest, right over my heart. A light came out of his hand and entered me. It was hot, deep, as if he gave me something that could never be taken away. "Now you carry the seed," he said. "Plant where no one else wants to plant." His words echoed like thunder inside me. In an instant, I felt my spirit being pulled back. A strong wind enveloped me. My body felt like it was falling, spinning, and then pain. Much more pain than before. My chest burned, my lungs were begging for air, my ears picked up confusing sounds, sirens, voices, metal. I opened my eyes. I was back in the car, medical parameters being shouted. A paramedic held my hand. I was coughing up blood, but I was alive. It took a while to understand. I had been revived. After 4 minutes in cardiac arrest, I was told, my heart came back. But I wasn't the same anymore. In the following days, memories came like waves. I didn't know how to tell it, not even where to start. People thought it was just a death delusion. Some doctors have even suggested post-traumatic hallucination. But deep down I knew that was more real than anything I've ever experienced. I started writing everything down, every detail, every vision, every word spoken by him, even with trembling hands, even without knowing if anyone would ever believe it. Because the order was clear. Tell the truth. Some will listen, some won't. But time is running out. Today I'm no longer afraid of appearing insane, because what I saw set me free. And if just one person, upon hearing this story, sees what they were also blind to, then it will all have been worth it. The system is being built. The deception is already in the air. But there is time. There's still time. And me? I'm just a humble caregiver. But now I carry fire in my eyes, and a truth in my chest that not even death could erase. It's been 7 months since the accident. 7 months since I left this world for a few minutes and was taken to see what almost no one sees, not with their eyes but with their soul. Since then, my life has become an invisible battlefield, not against people but against indifference, the mockery. I tried to get back to my routine as a caregiver, but something inside me no longer fit in that place. I saw the system operating even in small things, in the suspicious looks between colleagues of different races, in the elderly abandoned by children too busy with their screens, in the empty discussions about politics while the spirit died in silence. I started dreaming about cities of silence, with the broken mirrors, with the valley of choices. And more than once I thought about keeping quiet, in pretending that it was just a delusion, a passing illusion. It was easier, safer. But then I remembered him and his words. You have eyes that still cry. So I decided to speak out. Not in pulpits, not on channels with thousands of followers. I started in line at the supermarket with a lady who told me about her grandson, who was addicted to screens. I spoke in the hospital waiting room to a nurse who had lost his faith. I spoke with tears in my eyes to Mrs. Beatrice's daughter, the one I took care of before the accident. She cried with me. And he said, I also feel like something is wrong, but no one talks about it. Little by little, I saw that the right words spoken with a broken heart have power. I started recording videos. I didn't expect them to go far, but one of them went viral, then another, and another. People started writing, telling about their dreams, their experiences, their fears. People from all over the world saying, I saw something too. I felt it, too. But I thought it was just me. And there, in the middle of that network of awakened people, still small, still fragile, I realized the seed is germinating. The battle is not over. The system is still moving forward. The chip is already being tested in some nations. The division between races, classes, and ideologies is still fueled every day. But now, something has changed. Because the silence was broken. And me? I'm still scared sometimes, but I move on. Because I'm not alone anymore. And because I know that there is a kingdom greater than any human empire, a Lord more powerful than any system, and a truth more alive than any propaganda. If you've made it this far, know, this is not just a report. It's an invitation. Chord. Question, love, choice. Because time is running out. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.